So everybody want to know how I keep whipping up everything so fast while being a CEO and a full-time.
Right, I don't have anything in particular that I want to get accomplished. I know in my journey right now, I'm working on 3 things. Is demonstrating for people who want to be creative entrepreneurs how to be their authentic selves consistently, so that they can develop and share their gifts and ideas, and more importantly, whatever they try to make money off of within their community. Cool. So it's like, I was even reading a book that I have a few books here today, ironically, right? Will, who started Rec Philly, gave me this book, right? And y'all can go cop that. And it talks about just getting to your creative entrepreneurship. And so I'm brushing through it, and it made me realize, like, there was a lot more room for me to not narrow, but like make my message more clear, because people purchase things in boxes. That was something that I read, right? Like, when you're creative, you think outside of boxes, but like the way people consume and like find trust, more importantly, in things is with boxes, like it being very clearly distinguished. So that's where I've been at currently. Is I have all of my offerings, but now I have to make them much more simplified and clear, so that people can interpret them and see it for themselves, like see themselves in it.
Facts.
Right? So that's why I'm doing these conversations, so that I can slow it down and people can be like, oh, wow, I didn't think of it like this. I didn't know this is how he does that.
Facts.
This is that story. This is this person, because I already have a community of hundreds of people, thousands of followers, this sold, that put in the, all that stuff's done. But like now I want to slow it down so that the world can really grasp it. So what is, you know what I mean, you can introduce yourself. I always wait for the introductions later, but like we have just like literally met not too long ago. So we can start with your introduction, and then I'll get into some questions.
All right. Well, my name is Avidan M. Respis. I'm the CEO and Director of Business Development with Riyadh. What our focus is on entrepreneurship, teaching not just entrepreneurs, but also influencers and artists how to, take their brands to the next level. I took some classes, to really hone in on, my business sense with the University of Virginia and also Wharton UPenn. And through those different courses, especially my personal branding course with University of Virginia, I learned how important and fundamental it is to have, your personal brand in place. A lot of people don't even really have that narrowed down before they try to do a big brand. Everybody wants to make $1 million in their creative field, but before you even do that, you got to kind of scale back. You do have to start with the end in mind, but what are those blocks that you set in place in order to build that wall? And I believe, Will Smith had a quote that said, if I'm going to build a perfect wall, and I don't know if he's the first person that said this, but if I'm going to perfect wall, I have to lay every single brick perfectly and focus on that one brick. And then eventually, over time, you will have that perfect wall.
No, I ain't never heard that before. That's a good analogy, because if you mess one brick up, your whole career going.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a good joint. I actually like that a lot. And so, like you mentioned your shirt, what is the message behind, I guess, the merch? What brings that together, Briad's, I mean, just since you already mentioned it,
most
definitely go into detail.
So, the importance of branding, because you know how important it is as a creative and somebody who is, trying to, scaling their business. It's not trying, but scaling their business. People have to recognize a certain brand, right? So, when you see Nike, they have shirts, they have commercials, they have all these things. So when you see that check sign, you know what that means. So Adidas, Apple, even when you see an Apple in the grocery store, you're going to think of the product too. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
That's along the same lines. So look at how strategic they have been with their branding. So there's so many creatives, and Jiggy can attest to this too, that when we went to that open mic, how many were representing their own brand on themselves? You're supposed to be a walking billboard.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And if your brand truly matters, you at least need to be wearing your own shirts.
Right.
And that also, what we have seen through, strategic, operations and research, is how having the proper merch actually opens the door for conversation.
Right.
Because if you have a nice, we're at an event, You know, there's so many creative people. They're like, yo, I like that shirt. Yeah, I made it. You feel me? I layered the vinyl. I did all that stuff. Oh, maybe you can make shirts for me. Okay, so now that turns into, you know, a client type of basis. But even before we even get to that, I discussed how important it is because people are visual creatures. And you could say my brand this, my brand that, but if they don't see it, it doesn't really matter. Right. That's why even having like the social, you know, profile where you could, you know, yo, follow me on Instagram. I'm right here. Let's follow each other. Y'all are seeing each other's initial brands through following each other. Yeah. Now you're going to watch how they operate in their brand. You know what I'm saying? Are they posting, you know, stories where they're at different events and stuff? Or are they just posting like, you know, memes? Yeah. Somebody that's just posting memes, you're recognizing their brand that, okay, it's kind of like a hobby. But if you see them out here connect, they doing reels, showing you the back end of what they doing, all these different things, you're more likely going to want to connect with their brand. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Especially somebody like you that is like-minded, that's going somewhere. You're not going to follow somebody that's doing memes unless that's what they do. Yeah. And those memes are like entrepreneurial-minded to help you get further. Because, you know, like, we can all laugh about the entrepreneurial struggle. People not showing up, people promising they going to pay, all that stuff. And based off of how you also take those experiences shows what your brand means too. So all that coming back to that personal brand, what do you stand for? You know, I expected to get here a little bit early, you know, traffic, all these things. My personal brand says, yo, don't worry. When we get here, we're going to mix it up. We're going to make it happen. Yeah. Some people, yo, now the whole interview process don't go good because their brand is worrisome.
I get you.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and the reason why I sit down with you is because I see your brand. Even if you don't wear merch, which, you know, I know that you're also, you know, working on that and you have your own merch too. Wearing it more and people seeing that and then other people wearing it shows that your brand is like extended outside of yourself.
All right.
You feel me?
No, and that's why, like, when I went, that performance you had mentioned, you know, shouts out to AV. They had made me like a headline performer that day. Mm-hmm. And, you know, AV, when I initially met them, or encountered them, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I encountered them, one thing that I learned was that they were looking to access the network that I had already established, but it was because of what you mentioned, the brand that I had established. They were able to look at the profile and see what I already did, and they were also able to find value for themselves in it via like the symbols or like the experiences. Like it was like they don't have to talk to me to even get the experience. They were able to just utilize the network because it was available, it was productized, and there was accessibility to it, right? So, and, you know, I want to like refine what you just mentioned down to like what I mentioned in the beginning, right? Consistency, right? Being able to demonstrate it through maybe a product. And then he talked about authenticity, being able to share your social proof or your brand, just like being able to demonstrate it through maybe something simple like a website or your profile.
Facts.
And then lastly, the idea of collaboration, right? Because in order for you to know who you want to work with, those two elements I just mentioned, you know, they got to be present. And mind you, this is if you want to do things as effectively as possible. You could Wild West it. You know what I mean? Not gonna, like you just said it, like, right? If that's what aligns with you, like, you know, putting certain elements into action allows you to be more creative or show up, at, you know, at a higher quality, do your thing. So I guess I'll even take a step backwards to, you know, give people an opportunity and myself to, like, learn how you got here. So. I mean, hold on real quick. I'm gonna clip this junk. One thing I like to do with these is I don't like